Hello, I'm Chuck Benoit. Welcome to Restoring Our American Republic. I recently watched the Hoover Institute YouTube with Peter Robinson. He was interviewing John Lennox, Stephen Meyer, and James Tour, scientists and a mathematician, who see where science is going and are holding it accountable to the facts. There's a documentary coming out soon, The Story of Everything, and it comes out April 30th. And I got a sneak preview of what the information delivered in that film was going to be about. The question debated was, originally, are we a random accident or a predetermined reality? The facts were quite extraordinary. I will put a link to the discussion in the comments after the video. 3 points were made. A discussion on the Big Bang Theory, that there was a specific time of occurrence of the universe. It's been mathematically proven that you can't have an infinite sequence of expansion that you can take backwards in time. And because we can see that the universe is expanding, there has to be a time where it actually had to begin. And that can't be an infinite amount of time backward. It is pretty much agreed that the universe is about 18.3 billion years old. And because there was an actual beginning, they postulate there had to be a cause prior to the beginning. And that's the second point. You see, the universe would not be habitable with a very small shift of any one of thousands of measurements like gravity or the speed of light and many other of these measurements. Any of them, even minimally different, would render life impossible. That's called the fine-tuning of the universe. And regarding life itself, the more we learn about the cell, the harder it gets to manufacture one. Every year, science finds itself farther away from discovering the origins of life because we learn how much more we don't really know. Because there had to be a code of information that existed before a cell could possibly form. It couldn't possibly come into being by chance. A code assumes language, and language doesn't come into existence by chance. This brought about a conversation about top-down causation. You need a cell to get all the information needed to create it. All discovery comes back to a mind and not a material process for existence. Information is not a material thing. Information is a product of the mind. Information is the foundation for the cause of life, i.e. DNA, and the information in it. They noted that if you ever see a 4-letter word like exit above a door, you would have to assume an intellect placed it there to convey a meaning. Now, there are millions of letters in a DNA strand, and scientists claim chance and necessity for their existence. Well, they wouldn't dream of saying that about the 4-letter word exit over the door. The real question suggested is not what is the origin of life, but what is the origin of the code. The clash between science and religion, they noted, is not an information clash. It's a worldview clash. See, the Bible says, in the beginning was the Word. That denotes information, not matter. I found the whole debate quite interesting. Good morning, Mike Levine.
Good morning, Chuck. Well, let me just enlighten you here, Chuck. You ready?
Please do.
The solution to the origin of life dilemma is redistricting.
Yeah, or the future of life anyway.
Well, all we have to do, right, to make the subject really irrelevant, right, is just elect Republicans.
Yeah, that could do it.
So that's what we did, Chuck. That's what we did. We knew this was true, right? So we just levied our eternal wisdom into the political universe and rewrote the congressional districts in Florida.
There you go. Yeah, so I was going to start things out with Ron DeSantis calling for an April 28th special session. That's today, right?
Which was delayed.
Because it was
scheduled
delayed.
for last week.
Yeah.
It was delayed a week. Yeah.
And there
What
are.
else do you have to say about that?
Only that it occurred, and here we are on April 28th, awaiting with bated breath what happens on this auspicious occasion.
So much to be said about this subject, and we're talking about redistricting right now, right, Chuck?
Well,
Or
yeah,
about the special session. We're talking about the special session. Yeah, got it.
yeah,
Okay.
special
Well,
session.
there's three components to the special session, right, Chuck? Tell us what
Right.
they are.
Yeah. Yeah, we got redistricting, the vaccine issue, and AI
Medical
rights.
freedom.
Medical freedom,
Vaccine issue, also known as medical freedom, right? And
Right.
the AI is also known as the AI Bill of Rights.
Bill of Rights, yeah, there you go.
Bill of Rights, right. So that's what's happening in this special session. Okay, so that's that. So anyway, redistricting is a big deal nationwide, right? Because we're going into the midterms. Of course, the midterms are upon us. And of course, a lot of the candidates around the state, Chuck, have been kind of waiting with bated breath to figure out, what is going to happen in their districts. So maybe this would be a good time to pop those maps up, Chuck.
Yeah, sure. I'm going to pop them up. You'll be right next to them.
Okay, great. Okay, so for the viewers out there, you've got what you're looking at. There's two congressional district maps, and basically they're color coded for Republican versus Democrat. The left map is the proposed map that the legislature is going to be voting on this week, and the right map is the existing map. And really, I think there's a couple things you can say about that. But if you look at the existing map and you look at that big blue bar across the top of the state, that's actually Congressional District 5, which includes several, I think 5 counties across the top, across the Florida-Georgia line there. And basically, those obviously are Democrat districts, and that irregular congressional district layout is created to give Democrats that district. I mean, basically, we're just conceding that district to Democrats based on ethnicity, let's just say. So the whole case, Chuck, for the state of Florida is that writing congressional districts according to ethnicity or any other demographic profile is unconstitutional. And of course, with the massive change in the population in the state of Florida since the 2020 election, Governor DeSantis is making the point that redistricting is not only acceptable and constitutional according with the state constitution, which, by the way, specifically states that no congressional district will be drawn to benefit a particular demographic or a particular candidate. So it's unconstitutional. Actually, if you really tested it in the court, I know you could make a case for, and of course judges will determine what the outcome is, but there's a case that the existing congressional district map is unconstitutional and the replacement map is required, Chuck.
There you go. And so that's the proposed map, and we feel like we're on good grounds with it. It's not going to be bounced like Virginia's was, although it's not. That decision hasn't been totally made about Virginia, but right now
Well, keep in mind, Chuck, in Virginia, the redistricting map was passed, but for the wrong reason, and is now being challenged by our side of the aisle because they redistricted solely because of demographics. So they redistricted with the intent of gerrymandering, which they admitted. So now this is going back to the Supreme Court in Virginia to be adjudicated as to whether gerrymandering based on demographics is legal in Virginia, which I believe they're going to lose that lawsuit, which would be great for us, Chuck.
Yeah, I unfortunately, being Virginia being what it is, you can't count on it, but we can certainly hope that's the case.
That's true. So basically, the point about the judges is that the judges that they're going to be selected from to who's going to handle that case will be reappointed by a Democratic voter base in Virginia. So a judge might protect his own career by agreeing with the Democrats on redistricting in Virginia in order to preserve his judgeship, Chuck.
That's always the case. That's always very possible.
Well, it's sad. It's sad because that's not what judges are supposed to do, but it is reality in this crazy world that we live in today.
It's reality in a world that has lost sight of integrity, moral integrity, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So
it's also interesting, Chuck, as we talk about redistricting, right? We talked about that district up in the top of the state there. And then, of course, we have our next door neighbors in Orlando. That would be Congressional District 12. So basically, the map packs as many Democrats into District 12 as we can. And that's just to get them out of the other districts. Right, Chuck?
I guess, yeah, that makes sense
Orange
to me.
County, our neighbors in Orange County are going to be more blue than ever because we took Democrats out of Osceola County and packed them into the District 12 to make Darren Soto's District 9 more winnable. Actually, it turns District 9 red instead of blue. District 9 has been. That's Darren Soto, who served in the Florida House and then eventually got elected to Congress. He's been a congressman probably for 6 or 8 years. He's in his third or fourth term now. But I'm sure Darren Soto's not too happy today because he's got a red district now, and he was a hard blue district in the past. So that's what's going on. The map consolidates Democrats into District 12 and makes District 9, which is Osceola County and maybe the south part of Orange County, red.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And it does the same thing down in South Florida too.
Yeah.
If you take a look at the map again, if you wanted to, you could pop that map up again. We could just take one more look at it. So you can see that if you take a look on the right and you see that big blue in the center of the state, that big blue region right there, you can see that in the new map, that is compacted, right? Chuck?
Yeah, yeah.
Right. And then you can take a look down in South Florida too, and you'll see that the blue district down around Broward County in South Florida is compacted as well. So it just frees up and moves more Republican voters into more districts. And basically what's going on there, Chuck, to really put the definition of it, we're going from a 20-8 congressional map to a 20-4, if that makes sense. 20 Republican, we have 28 congressional districts. And in the current map, we're 20 districts Republican and 8 Democrat. And the replacement map makes the numbers, the ratios 20-4. So we're basically picking up 4 seats based on voter registrations across the state, Chuck.
That all sounds very interesting for us, we Democrats. So I would assume that, Mike, that you are pretty much in favor of this new layout.
Only if you want to save the country.
Oh, that'll.
Yeah.
Okay,
Exactly.
well.
So yeah, anything we can do. Look, my big fear today, I got 2 major concerns today. Number 1, we get the right governor in the state of Florida. And number 2, we hold the House and Senate in Congress so that Donald Trump is not impeached again. And Donald Trump's agenda is not viciously attacked by the jackals on the other side, Chuck.
Yeah, jackals it sounds like an appropriate word for sure. Well, let's move on to number 2, the vaccines. A special session is going to include a bill by Republican Senator Clay Yarbrough of Jacksonville, and he wants to add a non-religious and non-medical exemption for parents who don't want their children to receive immunizations that are required to attend the Florida schools. Do you have any comments on that, Mike?
Well, I mean, it's a simple question for me. Should parents be forced to vaccinate their kids? And I'm not in favor of that. I don't think parents should be forced to vaccinate their children. So this just gives a non-religious opt-out to parents, right? And the whole thing there, Chuck, is that you can just see, this is another example of how institutions are used politically. And basically, let's just say that pharmaceutical companies want laws that force people to vaccinate, because that means they're selling vaccines. So, and then when you take the public school system and you make laws or rules that say that children if you want your child to go to public school, you've got to give them this series of vaccines. Now you're using public education to force people to buy vaccines. But the interesting part of that is, Chuck, is not only are Florida families skeptical about the vaccines, and in my opinion, with due cause, we're also registering fewer students in public schools. So I think those things go hand in hand, and are just the public school system just exemplifies that families want to take control of their well-being today, not only in the area of vaccines, but in school curriculum. So the schools don't really have the leverage that they once had, because now we have universal school choice, and you can give our great governor credit for that too, because it certainly happened under his watch. And by the way, to my I can't use the word friend, because I don't think he perceives me to be a friend, but under gubernatorial candidate Paul Renner, he passed universal school choice into law while he was the Speaker of the House, and I support that. So kudos to Speaker Paul Renner, and kudos to Governor Ron DeSantis, and I guess you have to give Kathleen Passidomo credit too, because she was there, although Kathleen Passidomo has worked against us on so many other things that I don't like to say anything nice about her. The Lake County Republican Executive Committee actually censured her. And I wrote the resolution.
You like it.
So, but anyway, well, under our great leader Anthony Sabatini's direction, but certainly we had a chat about it, whether that was a good idea or not, and I agreed to do it. So obviously Anthony and I got on the same page on that issue. So I don't mind saying that because again, Anthony, the bold leader that he is, this is not the subject of today's broadcast, so I'll resist going down into that rabbit hole. But long story short, I believe families should have the right to choose what vaccines they put in their bodies and their children's bodies. I think parents are the ultimate decision maker over what's good for their kids and what's not. And of course, under Health and Human Services Secretary RFK Jr., we're finding a lot of reasons to be skeptical about vaccines. Chuck, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree. The looking through the bill itself, there were a couple of small pieces of information that kind of jumped out at me. And on line 127 through 130, it talks about the purpose of this particular paragraph. The state health officer's authority to treat or order treatment does not include the authority to order a vaccination. So I think that's important, that they are not allowed to, in this bill, to order anyone to be vaccinated.
So the history of that, Chuck, is that bill passed the Florida Senate, but Speaker of the House Danny Perez didn't take it up in the Florida House. Therefore, it wasn't signed into law, and therefore, Governor DeSantis, who's committed to medical freedom, which God bless Ron DeSantis for that, is bringing it up in special session. And Danny Perez, his argument was that you're going to get a federal law. No, that's on the AI side. Forgive me for that. But for whatever reason, Danny Perez didn't bring it up in regular session, so the governor is bringing it back, and Danny Perez probably argued he just didn't have enough time and didn't get around to it, right? So the governor is going to bring it up in the special session because he's committed to it. He's in his last, again, as we built into our headline, for this particular broadcast is, Governor Ron DeSantis heading down the home stretch. So DeSantis is a competitive athlete, and he knows that in order to win, you have to finish well. So here he is, and he's got the redistricting thing, which is massive for us. And now he's addressing medical freedom, which is a high priority for the base. And then you get into the AI Bill of Rights, which is also a high priority for the Republican base, Chuck.
Yes, well, before we get into the AI, one other piece that kind of jumped out at me reading the bill is on line number 346 through 348. And it says that children who are identified as not having been immunized against a disease that is of concern, for which the emergency has been declared, must be temporarily excluded from school attendance by the district school board or the governing authorities. It goes actually down to line number 350. So I just thought those two pieces of information were important for the public to pick up on. They are both in the proposed legislation.
Yes, and that just expedites the dissolution of the public school system, because as people take their kids out of school because they don't want to vaccinate their kids, then they realize how unproductive the public school system is, and they find alternatives. So, I mean, this is just short-sightedness on the part of, I'm going to just call them liberals, the word fascist is actually in my mind, but if they want to shrink the public school system, then demonstrate to families that there are alternatives, and that's a great way to do it. If you don't want to vaccinate your kids can't go to public schools, and when your kids are at home and parents are instructing their curriculum, like the Florida Republican Assembly had a very nice young lady from the, I can't remember the name of it, FCL, Florida Christian something, I forget it, but there's a girl that came out and spoke to the Lake County, Florida Republican Assembly chapter last week, and she was talking about micro schools. She's got 3 daughters, the youngest of which is 14 years old. Her 2 older daughters graduated from public schools, but she's got her 14-year-old in a micro school program, and she's saying that now that her daughter runs her own curriculum, and her oldest daughters, and that to get into a state university, you don't need a high school diploma. You just got to pass the SAT or whatever test the university requires. And her 14-year-old is ready to pass the test now because she is micro-schooled, and her daughter is very motivated to study, and she studies what she wants to study, not what they're forcing her to study. So she enjoys her school, and she studies all year long. She doesn't take summers off, so she's constantly learning. And she's in this particular familial situation, I would argue that her 14-year-old is better prepared than most 14-year-olds that are attending public school. So this is working for that family. So as the Florida legislature forces people who don't want to vaccinate their children to not attend public schools, I believe you'll see the enrollment in public schools continue to decline, Chuck Benoit.
There we go. So let's go ahead and move into AI rights. And the legislature is poised to take another shot at the AI Bill of Rights based on legislation originally filed by St. John County's Republican Senator Thomas Leek. It adds consumer protection for children and regulations for the AI products in Florida. Is there anything you want to just start off with, Mike?
Well, let me ask you a question, Chuck. Like, for example, for me personally, I get a lot of news off of podcasts. Do you?
Yeah, I think I do, yeah.
So sometimes, like the big rage today is for influencers, and keep in mind, these can be corporations. These can be big money corporations. These corporations or influencers are taking data and feeding it into their AI, and the AI actually produces a podcast that has an anchor with a human being talking to you that is an AI-generated image, and then rolls out all of the information that they want you to be exposed to through artificial intelligence. And I'll tell you, after sometimes, Chuck, until you really understand that that is actually going on, and you kind of sharpen your sensory skills to be able to detect what is AI and what isn't, those podcasts are super convincing. That you think when you're watching it that you're watching a human being that is speaking into a camera like you and I are right now, but that's totally not the case. So my argument about the AI Bill of Rights is, particularly as it relates to children, right? Do we want to expose our children to fantasy that is beyond their ability to detect? And even if they can detect it, they're children. So who gets to decide what children are exposed to by artificial intelligence, Chuck? And I would say that artificial intelligence in the area of our children is very, very dangerous and most certainly needs legislative guardrails, Chuck.
So the proposed legislation says that it wants to prohibit minors from signing up for AI platform accounts without parental consent. Are you saying that's not enough?
It's better than what we have now, so I'm certainly in favor of the bill. And I thank Governor DeSantis to bring it back into the special session so it can get done this year under his watch, Chuck.
Oh, great. Yeah, I'm glad we can say some nice things about Governor DeSantis, because in the past we have, had our issues with him. So, so talking about getting down to the final run there, he seems to be pulling up his bootstraps.
Well, Chuck, Ron DeSantis has always been strong on these types of issues. Okay, the concerns that we've had in the past about Governor DeSantis originated when he decided to run against Donald Trump, and then he and, of course, Paul Renner and Kathleen Passidomo completely rewrote the election law and removed the resign to run requirement from the from state officers running for federal office, and that was just purely self-serving. And I believe that Ron DeSantis deserves criticism for making that decision and for rewriting that law. And of course, Ron DeSantis is a very heavy-handed governor. So if you don't go along with what the governor wants to do, particularly in that time period of 2023 and 2024, when he was not in his last year of his governorship, and of course, you can just see the change in the attitude of the Florida legislature towards Ron DeSantis after he lost the primary or withdrew from the primary, however you want to look at it. But once Ron DeSantis was not going to be the president of the United States, then the legislature pushed back very hard against what Ron DeSantis was trying to do with immigration reform and all that. So while, we love Ron DeSantis for a lot of good reasons, and there's a few things out there that have demonstrated how self-serving he can be. And again, and then you can get into the whole special interest thing, because all this stuff is going down. All the land use stuff that we're screaming about is going down under his watch too. So, there's like all of us, Chuck, there's none of us are perfect, right? So there's a lot of good things about Ron DeSantis we can love him for, because he's been a great governor overall. When you look at it, just like Rick Scott, you can go back to Rick Scott and say a lot of things I didn't like, and I'm not talking about myself personally. This is what I hear on the street. There's a lot of things that people don't like about Rick Scott. On the other hand, Rick Scott was a great governor for the state of Florida in many ways. So I would suggest that they kind of fall in the same camp. DeSantis having his strengths and, utilizing his position to his own political benefit is a downside to DeSantis. But overall, if I have to give Ron DeSantis a report card, I'm going to say Ron DeSantis has been a great governor. Chuck?
Well, that's good to hear. Back to the bill. It prohibits AI companies from selling or disclosing personal user information, and requires the AI chatbot to notify the user once per hour that they are interacting with an AI model and not a human. I thought that was kind of interesting. And then the final thing, you can discuss either or both of these if you want. We're coming to the end of our time. they're debating AI use among youth in the wake of multiple reports nationwide by parents who say that an AI chatbot was involved in their child's decision to attempt or commit suicide. We had a 14-year-old here in Florida that was among all of that. So you can give me some finals on AI, and you might want to just go ahead and wrap up our time here, Mike Levine.
Sure. Well, Chuck, the tech companies are always so far ahead of government. So these little workarounds that you just cited, believe me, they'll find ways to work around that. Government, these are the most brilliant minds in human history that are putting together all this stuff. And believe me, no matter what the government needs to attempt to rein these guys in. I like to use the word guardrails, give them some guardrails, but these tech guys are going to always stay in front of us. So this is a parental issue. We've got to parent our kids, and we've got to be very concerned about what our kids are watching. We have to monitor that, and it's going to take some effort on behalf of parents, and there's bad things are going to happen because these tech companies don't care about your kids. They are exploiting your children for profit, in my opinion. So this is going to be an ongoing problem. It's going to be a continuous fight, and it's going to get tougher before it gets easier, Chuck.
Well, thank you, Mike Levine. And thank you all again for tuning in to our twice weekly live stream. Please follow us on Facebook and X at RestoreOurRep76, or check us out on YouTube at Restoring Our American Republic-ROAR. Please like and share our program. And remember, if you're unwilling to govern yourself, you will be governed by tyrants. Until next time, God bless you, God bless President Donald J. Trump, and God bless America.